Say, Logan, where are we right now?
We're at the Cannon River STEM School. In fact, we just finished talking with Mr. Tanner Walter's 6th grade class about immigration and diversity in Faribault.
Oh, yeah.
My family has many different ethnic backgrounds. My mom's side of the family is German and Swedish. A tradition that has been passed down to me by my great-grandmother and grandmother is making Swedish pancakes and Swedish meatballs. My mom originally lived in Rugby, North Dakota, and then moved to Faribault. My dad's side of the family is German, Swedish, French, English, and Norwegian. My dad's been in Faribault since he was 9 years old. My mom and dad got married, and they have been in Faribault 15 years together. They decided to stay in Faribault because of family, schools, and jobs. Faribault is important to me because this is where I've grown up, my friends and family are here, and this is where I go to school in the Kingdom Hall. Something I like about Faribault or Minnesota is all the different seasons. In winter, I like snowboarding, and in summer, I like swimming and playing outside in the warm weather. And one of my favorite things to do in Faribault is jump on my trampoline with my brother and spend time with family here.
My family originally came from a few places in the world before coming to Minnesota or Faribault. Most part of my family is German, Irish, Scottish, Dutchess, and English. My dad's side, for his parents, I don't actually know why they moved to Faribault, but I know that they were both born in Rochester, and my mom grew up near Faribault in a farm, had to shovel manure, and with her brother and sister.
My family came from Norway and on one side and Sweden on the other side. They came around, I think it was my great-great-grandparents. And then they came and moved to North Dakota for the government was giving out land for free as long as they could farm it. So then my grandparents moved to Minnesota, Fergus Falls, Minnesota in the 1920s, I think, something around there. Great-grandparents. And then they had my grandparents. My grandpa was an engineer, and my grandma was a nurse. They went to live in Fergus Falls because after they finished doing all their schooling and stuff, because they wanted to be closer to their parents. So then, when my mom was born, she moved to Northfield because she also wanted to be closer to her parents. So they had me. I still live a little bit outside of Northfield. I go to school here because it's not that much farther than the schools in Northfield because we live outside of Northfield. Faribault is important to me because a lot of my friends from school and other places like that come here. I also like that there are 4 distinct seasons, and that it's not a really tiny town. So there's lots of places to go and stuff like that, but it's also not a huge city with lots of people and stuff like that. So I like that.
My family came to Faribault 15 years ago. What keeps my family here is my dad got a job here at Daikin, the place where they make the air conditioners, and we got a nice house here.
I was 5 years old. So, and I also like it here because my family, we have a lot of family members here. Yeah, my great-great-grandpa parents, Andrew and Anne, were from Sweden. Andrew met Anne when she was very young and living in an orphanage. He made plans to marry her after he went to America to make a home for him and her. And he settled in Hallock, Minnesota, where he bought a farm, then returned to Sweden for Anne. They married and moved to Hallock, where they had the farm, and reused, and then our family was sort of made, and then, yeah, and then my Papa Steve and Aunt Nana moved to Bloomington after it from Hallock in the early 1980s. They moved around quite a bit, but stayed in Northfield for 12 years. My papa passed away 7 years ago, and my Nana moved to Faribault right by us.
My family came from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but after 4 years, my mom came to Faribault because of my dad. The reason my stepdad's side of the family came to Minnesota, Faribault, it's because they wanted to start anew, and they heard that it was an amazing place. They were in Mexico, then Texas, and then they stayed here. Their family has been here for over 2 generations.
Now my family has lived in Minnesota for about 150 years. What else? So I am related to Millard Fillmore, 13th was in the United States, I believe.
My family came to Minnesota 86 years ago in the 1930s. We've been in Faribault for about 60 years, and this is where my family has been practically for a long time. What I love about Faribault is that it's kind of a small little town, and it's just, I love downtown Faribault because it's a place where you can hang out with friends.
I really like everything about Faribault because there's a lot of nice weather and a lot of nice attractions, and it's really close to Bloomington and Mall of America and Valley Fair, so it doesn't take that long for me to get to other attractions.
My family came from Germany on my mom's side, and my grandpa was born in Germany, and my grandma was born in Windham. And what I love about Faribault is all the seasons and the schools and where I live, and that I'm with my family. And on my dad's side, I don't know where my family came from.
On my side of my family, well, my mom's side, it's Hispanic. From Guadalajara and Zacatecas, from Mexico. And my favorite thing about Faribault is all the attractions, the person who was named after Faribault, that stuff. Then all the great places you could go here in Faribault. My family story is my family has been in Faribault for over 100 years. We have plenty of ethnicities, but they did move away when I was born, but then they moved back, I don't know why. And now we live in Faribault just near the middle school. That's about all. I know.
My family came from many places. I am mostly German and Czech. My family has lived here for more than 100 years. They decided to stay in Faribault, my parents did, because they thought it would be a great place to raise a family, and they wanted to stick close to their family.
My family comes from all over. My mom was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and my dad was born here in Owatonna, Minnesota. I was born in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we lived there for almost 5 years. We moved to Minnesota because my dad was sick and my mom wanted to live closer to family for help. We decided to move to Faribault because it was close to our family that lived here, had a good environment, good jobs, nice places to live, and we would make a lot of good friends. I like Minnesota because it had good rollerblading trails, good and friendly places to hike, and it is my home now. I still miss Colorado, but I am proud and happy to live here in Faribault, Minnesota. Talking with my mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa, I can learn a lot about my ethnic background and somewhat of Minnesota. What I like to do here is I like to rollerblade, draw, hang out with friends, and play with my dog and my leopard gecko.
My family came from Czechoslovakia, located in Europe. They came to America because it was the land of opportunity. My grandma came to Minnesota and met my grandpa, and they had my mom and 7 other children. My mom met my dad in Minnesota, and they had me and my sister.
My family originally came from Minnesota. My dad used to live in Morristown and moved to Faribault because of work. He's been living in Faribault for 9 years and doesn't leave because of his job and because I go to school here. Some of my ancestors are German, French, Irish, and Czech. I have also lived in Faribault for 9 years. One thing I like about Faribault is when it starts to get colder and the leaves start changing colors. In our Northern Lakes textbooks, we read about different stories of people coming to Minnesota. After reading these stories, I knew a lot about Minnesota's history. I learned how people lived back then, a connection I had with these people, that they were outside a lot and I like being outside.
My family came from El Salvador, which is a place in Mesoamerica. They were in school until they dropped out so they can help their family. Soon my dad came to Minnesota so he can find a better job. He moved back to El Salvador so he can marry my mom. My mom didn't want to go, but he followed my dad. So for 19 years, my dad and my mom and all of my family has been living here. They lived here for 19 years. Soon my brother was born, and after that I was born. And we all lived in a happy apartment. We were all happy. In our Northern Lights textbook, we read about different stories of people coming to Minnesota. After reading the stories, we discover about people who lived from somewhere around the world to Minnesota. I learned that a lot of them are from different places. The most interesting parts were they came where they live all the way here. A connection I had with these people that some of them are kind of related to us.
My family originally came from Germany and Norway. We came here because we had lots of family here, and we also came here for hockey because that's like a family tradition. All of our family members play hockey. And we have our grandparents living here. They live up north, so we like to go skating on their lake.
My family originally came from New Jersey and New York. The reason why they came to Faribault, Minnesota was for the jobs. I live here in Minnesota because my family and friends live here.
I always lived in Minnesota. My grandma's grandparents came from Australia and then they came to Minnesota.
My family originally came from France. When my family then went to South Dakota and then came to the Minnesota, or the MN, or whatever you want to call it. I like Minnesota and Faribault because I like being with family and I like the seasons, and I like playing with friends and playing with my dogs.
My family originally came to Minnesota 38 years ago. My ancestors are German. They changed their last name to be like everybody else. The reason why I like Minnesota is because I like going mudding with my dad. My mom stayed in Minnesota to stay with her mom.
My family originally came from Germany, Ireland, and Scotland before we moved to Alaska and Wisconsin. We moved to Faribault 2 years ago in August because my brothers attended Shattuck St. Mary's. Faribault is important to us because I have a lot of friends here and I'm planning on going to Shattuck in a few years. That's also what kept us here. A tradition in my family is that we like to go moose hunting and we cut it up and we make moose jerky and moose soup. And ethnicity is what's on the inside and traditions. Race is what's on the outside. Culture is things you do because of your beliefs. And my race is white, Alaska Native, Irish, and Scottish.
My background, most of my family came from Germany, but for all the other ones, they were born in Faribault or moved from Germany, Ireland, or Norway. What keeps me and my family in Faribault is a lot of family members live in Faribault still to this day. Why Faribault is important to me is because a lot, and I mean a lot of family lives in Faribault still.
My family originally came from Faribault on my mom's side. On my dad's side, most of my family came from New York. My ethnicity is Norwegian, European, and French Canadian Indian. My mom and dad were both born in Faribault, but then they moved to Warsaw to start a family, and they lived there for 16 years, and they still live there today. My dad's side of the family mostly all lives in Faribault, and my mom's side lives in different places of the United States. My family is why we stay in Minnesota, because we're all somewhere different, but we're all still considered Minnesotans. Faribault is important to me because it's where I learned to play my favorite sport, volleyball, and I do a lot of plays here, and the nature and caring neighbors and community. That's why we call Faribault, Minnesota my home.
Thanks, kids, for the wonderful research.
Do that again.
Thanks. Thanks, kids, for that wonderful research. Thanks for the wonderful
Thank you, kids, for your wonderful research. Just like the Bishop would love, so come on.
Thank you, kids, for your wonderful research.
Okay, do that again.
It doesn't sound real when I say thank you, kids, for your wonderful...
Well, it sounded real last year.
No, it didn't.
It sounded less bad.
Thanks for the wonderful research, kids.
Do it again.
What? Thanks, kids, for that wonderful research.
Can you just do it?
I'm trying.
Just do it.
Okay, I am. Thanks, kids, for the wonderful research.
And now back to the episode.
Okay. I felt like Hillary Clinton there.